Hey up, I wanted to make MODER from Valheim, so I did. Here's what I did. I know I've only made monsters from Monster Hunter so far, but I wanted to start and make other things on this channel as well. Some of my first creations were Pokemon, and if you follow me on TikTok at Middle of the Island, you've probably seen them before. Anyway, I've just made a rock out of some foil, and I'm going to cover it up with some clay. First of all, if you don't know who MODER is or what Valheim is, then do yourself a favour and go and play the game. I played it completely blind with my mate, and they're probably the most memorable gaming experiences I've ever had, to be honest. Obviously you've had MODER spoiled for you now though by clicking on this video, but keep watching. But MODER, meaning mother in Swedish, is a wyvern based on a two-legged structure, but she lays dragon eggs and drops a dragon tear, so driven? Wagon? Anyway, I should probably talk about the build. I'm just constructing the armature at this point, making sure the connection point is as strong as possible so there's no wobblage. It needs to be strong as I'm planning to have both her wings in the air, so only her legs are going to be holding her up. Once she's in place, I can wrap the thin sheets of clay I made earlier around the body, but it was at this point however that I realised that wyvern legs are not in fact human legs, and forgot to add this bendy leg ankle part here. Once I eventually mangled them into the correct shape, I f***ed it up. Way too wobbly, too much wobblage, so I made a new one. Once I've given this one a coat of Super Sculpey, I can start adding some muscle definition to the legs, and MODER does not skip leg day. I obviously don't want it to look quite like Jay Cutler though, so I'm going back through in between all the muscles with a silicone shaper and smoothing them all out. To be honest, I'm not keen on MODER's claws. I feel like I could have made her some proper wyvern feet, but I'm staying true to the source material here. Accuracy first, regret second. This is a texture roller that I made for a previous dragon sculpt just before starting this channel, and it's good for giving her a nice even case of chickenpox. For the head, I'm basically rolling a ball into an oval shape, carving the mouth out, and then attaching a jaw. Two teeny tiny pre-baked balls can get jabbed into her eye sockets, and to give her that mean look, some small thin sausages can be her eyelids. To give her a nice British smile, I've rolled up a piece of clay into a long thin sausage, and then rolled the end bit sharp and snipped it off. I've done this a lot to get as many teeth as you see here, and I don't actually use any bacon bond or anything like that, because I like the freedom of committing to a tooth placement, smoothing it all out, and then immediately changing my mind and ripping it back out again. I'm making the big horns on his head have tiny ridges because I think it looks cool, and then I can make a few more. Using a craft knife, I can rough the horns up to give them some wear and tear, and then do the exact same thing to the rest of them. Once the horns have been added, I can fit the head onto the model using some liquid clay, and then smooshing some more clay on top to make sure that it's not going anywhere. If you're wondering why the head is a different colour to the body, it's because I made the head out of my last chunk of cosplay. Using the Mr. Bean method, I'll map out how big I want the wings to be, and then draw some mediocre wings to some A4 as to use it as a template for both wings. I've wrapped a thicker gauge wire with some not so thick wires, attached one end to a drill and one end to some pliers, and made them spiral. I'll then unwind the spiral so that there's one piece of wire for each, whatever those things are called, wing bones, and then using some aluminium tape, stick one side to the wing, which can be followed by one large sheet of actual aluminium foil, trying not to get any wrinkles. I've done it this way so I can move the wings into the position I think looks least shit without causing too much trouble for myself. I can then add a long line of clay along the wing, texture it and bake it in the oven so I can move on to the actual wings without ruining all the texture by manhandling it. I'm using a ton of liquid clay to spread all over the wings to not only get rid of some of the unwanted wrinkles, but also to make it easier to paint in the future. Once I've got 2 completed wings, I can add more clay on top of the body to create the fur. Now, if you're a returning viewer, you'll know I like to make fur by stabbing the clay with a semi-sharp sculpting tool and then going over it with a coat of isopropanol alcohol to blend everything together so it doesn't look too stabby. The wings are then fitted into place and some additional hair is added to his head. It was also at this point I realised I completely missed 4 horns on his forehead. Just before baking it, I had a major fear of his wings collapsing in the oven, so I made a contraption to hold them up. That's the clay part finished, and as I was planning the base out in my head, I realised the one I'd made was just a bit too small. So now I guess it's time to paint. I have a plan now for the base now that it's a bit bigger, and that involves XPS foam. If you've played the game before, you'll know that the method of spawning MODER in is by basically putting 3 of her eggs on a ritual-esque stone platform. So I'm basically cutting out each stone and dotting them with a ball stylus to give it some texture. A coat of matte varnish can prevent the shine from the acrylic paint, and then I can craft a concoction of hole filler, Mod Podge and sand for the base. This is basically going to act as the undersection of the snow on the rocky mountain, and so needs to have that jagged texture. The circular altar can get jammed into place, and then once that's dry, I can use the white acrylic paint of delayed and badly edited transitions. I actually messed up pretty bad here, so you can pause the video if you want to find out how, but I'm giving the whole base a once over with a watered down black, followed by progressively lighter and lighter dry brushes over the top, making sure to catch all the edges. Then a heavy heap of white can cover the whole thing, effectively ruining all that dry brushing, and this is going to act as the base layer of the snow on the mountain. I didn't know how much snow I wanted to add at this point, but I think I just went for it in the end. This fake snow needs to go on top of the base, so I'll coat it all in a thin down PVA glue and sprinkle it all over the top. Then as we near closer to the end, I can finally start edging, and I love edging. It's the most satisfying part, especially when I finally get to finish. Comment down below if you like edging as well. Once I fit MODER to the base, I've got some liquid frost here from Green Stuff World, and this stuff is basically a saline solution that, given time, forms crystal-like structures that simulates frost, which I think is perfect for MODER. Lastly, I have a bunch of mini trees that I feel are the perfect scale for this diorama, and really hammers home MODER's size. Once these have been glued in, you can actually already see the liquid frost doing its thing. But with that said, I called it there.